Good morning. My name is Dr. Frank Colapretti, excuse me, and I am a faculty member at Keuka College. And sadly, we're coming to the end of our journey with our presentations. Our last presentation this morning is by Dr. Kim Fong Poon McBrayer. She is an associate professor and associate head of the Hong Kong Institute of Education. And her presentation this morning is on transnational education in Hong Kong, regulations, quality assurance, and issues. And if you could please join me in welcoming our presenter.
Thank you. Good morning. It's my first time to be the last presenter of a conference. But I also think that it may be the first time for you to hear from two Hong Kong delegates in the same morning, actually the last morning of a conference. I'm not sure it's the first time to hear three presentations in a row that actually has a common thread together. Okay, I think that the common thread that ties the three presentations together this morning is the quality, the issue of quality, and quality assurance. Even though we may approach from different perspectives, but we are actually looking at the quality, which is really at the core of higher education. Okay? Now, in view of the time and the fact that you have been so patient to come to this last morning's presentation, I want to actually go ahead to the focus that we're going to talk about. Okay, so instead of approaching, looking at quality and quality assurance, or quality of the programs, from the partner perspective, as Dr. Ching presented earlier, okay, or the evaluation reforms, okay, as you have just heard. Okay, I'm going to look at it from the regulations perspective. Okay, what do we have in Hong Kong? What are we doing? What are some issues associated with the regulations? As we can see, based on the data that that I have been able to get, which was difficult. That's one of the issues actually. Okay, difficult to get the information that actually help us to have a perspective. Okay, and also the insider experience as a quality assurance officer for a period of time when I was between the academia. Okay, so to save your time, I'm going to actually skip on some of the introductions on the types of transnational education, the definitions offered by OECD and UNESCO. Instead, we're just going to move forward to, I have a hard time to see from here, okay, the types of programs, all these are definitions by the OECD, okay, and the types of transnational education that are currently offered in Hong Kong. Basically, just about every type you can think of, we have it in Hong Kong. Okay, but from there, I'm going to go ahead to take a look at the programs, the issues with the quality assurance based on our regulations. You will see that we have a lot of the programs from different countries, and UK because of the historical legacy. So we have more programs, more than half of the transnational programs from UK. And other countries share a smaller portion. Okay, then I'm going to jump to the regulation issues. We'll take a look at the current regulations and the very limited data that we could get to try to help us to look at actually the quality assurance issues based on the regulations, how we're going to do it. Okay, the current regulations we have in Hong Kong actually was enacted in June 1997. After really in 1982 or 86, when the government realized there was a number of transnational education programs or cross-border educational programs in Hong Kong, and yet there was no regulation to monitor or to help to maintain a degree of quality. Okay, and so that was when eventually they had the working group that was set up to develop some guidelines, and eventually they brought about the ordinance. Okay, and this ordinance, in terms of the name, it has not been changed. Okay, commonly in Hong Kong we call it CAP 493. Okay, the full name is Non-Local Higher and Professional Education Regulations Ordinance, and it has a subsidiary legislation that focuses on the rules, and also the part with the professional education, there will be the appeal process. So those are accompanying policies. Okay, let's see if it works like this. Okay, and the objective of the ordinance, very simple. Okay, it's to protect the Hong Kong consumers by guarding against the launching of transnational education programs that do not fulfill the registration criteria in Hong Kong. So really it's for consumer protection. Okay, and it also provides a framework to regulate the standard advertisements. So there's some other details, okay, including the advertisement, how you can advertise those programs, student payment, and and then the payment refunds for the students. Should there be a situation that they should get their refunds? Okay, so that's actually good to have some of the details there. I hope you see the next one. Okay, some of the more details on the regulations, all the programs conducted in Hong Kong leading to non-local higher education qualifications or professional qualifications. So you can have academic qualifications, which will be degrees, or professional qualifications, for example, like CPA, okay, must be properly registered. Now, they don't have to be accredited, but they need to be registered, or be exempt from registration. So there's a situation that you could be exempt from going through the registration, and what are those situations? I'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, and then there will be a unit that's called the Non-Local Course Registry, which is under the Education Bureau, and that registry, we commonly call it NCR. NCR is responsible for the registration process and the final decisions on whether a program will be approved to be registered in Hong Kong and to operate in Hong Kong. Okay. Now, but the NCR has a very important partner, and that partner is, in a short form, we call it HKCAAVQ. Has anybody heard of this? No. Okay. That's a very important authority in Hong Kong. The law name is the Hong Kong Council for Accreditation of Academic and Vocational Qualification. That is the advisor to the NCR in making the decisions as to whether a program will be properly registered in Hong Kong or not, that they cannot run it in Hong Kong. Okay, and so we'll take a look at the, I hope I get it all right. If you see something that's different, still regulations, okay. There. Responsibilities of HKCAVQ. Basically, the NCR is taking more of an administrative role of the entire process, but the HKCAVQ people there, okay, actually assess each application for registration against the registration criteria stipulated in the ordinance, okay, and then they will give the recommendations to the registrar. Now, the registrar has a right to not accept, to reject the recommendation, okay? As an insider, working in HKCAVQ for a period of 3 years, that has never happened, except when we recommend not to allow a program to be registered. Now, that's when they will come back to us and ask us why, even though we already write all the reasons. Okay, we give them all the reasons as to why we don't think this program should be registered. Eventually, go through maybe a prolonged process of going back and forth. Typically, eventually, they will be registered. Okay. Another important function of HKCVQ is that under the ordinance, the programs that are registered are required to submit what they call the annual return. Okay, basically an annual report to make sure that they still meet all the registration criteria so they can continue their registration status. Now, as I said earlier, there are exemptions. Okay, if any of the overseas, what we call the providers, program providers or operators, who want to have exemptions under the ordinance, they need to partner with the local publicly funded universities. Okay, and so you will see a list on the screen. Okay, all of those universities, if their partners are one of these universities, they don't have to go through or to meet the registration criteria of the regulations. The reason for that is the local universities will be responsible for making sure that they meet the criteria. So there's a trust element there, okay, to trust the local universities. And the local universities are self-accrediting. So they don't need to go through accreditation for their programs. Okay, another type of programs that can get the exemption is the purely distance learning programs. Okay, if it's entirely distance program, there's no direct contact, then they can be exempt from that as well, even though they are encouraged to register, but they don't have to. Okay. And the programs are conducted entirely by the registered schools or the local higher education institutions. They don't have to get the registration. Okay, what are the requirements? Okay, the requirements, first of all, that program and the institution has to be a recognized, accredited institution in its own country. And the program has to be an accredited program in its own home country. Okay, so those are the most important criteria, and that those institutions have to be recognized either through their self-accrediting situation in their home countries, or that they are recognized in their community as a proper institution to offer those programs. So basically, both the programs that you offer in Hong Kong from elsewhere and the institutions have to be either through a recognition process or accreditation process in their home countries. Now, if you think about that, since the programs and the institutions all have to be properly recognized or accredited by, in their home countries, and with the regulations in Hong Kong, where we have the details to basically ensure that the programs are run properly, that the consumers will be protected, okay, at least to a degree, then there shouldn't be huge major issues. But we are encountered with some of these quality assurance issues that actually have seldom been even talked about, because a lot of people are not even aware of these issues. And what are some of those? I hope I can see this, because I expect to see a screen myself. And then now I cannot see a screen, and I have this very small print here. Okay, first of all, that what we see is the collaboration models. Okay, one of the issues, I think that actually probably in Dr. Cheng's presentation mentioned some of that. Okay, is how the overseas institutions can effectively ensure the qualifications of, say, the local teaching staff. okay, because they cannot fly all of their staff from their home countries to Hong Kong to conduct the lessons. Okay, it will be very costly. So therefore, a lot of the teaching is actually done by people they hire locally. But how do they ensure the qualifications and how do they ensure the quality of teaching? Okay, because of basically the geographical distance. Okay, and whether they actually visit Hong Kong to do the quality assurance aspect, because most of the universities will say they will have their staff to come to Hong Kong periodically, regularly, to check on the quality of teaching. They'll sit in the classes, and they'll speak with the students, and they'll make sure that the local operator also does all the processes to ensure the quality assurance. But do they actually always keep their promise? Are they able to do that? Well, that's an issue. And what we have seen when we do the assessment on annual returns is that oftentimes they're not able to do as much as they said they would. Okay, so instead of 3 visits or 2 visits a year, they might do it once a year or even every other year or every 2 or 3 years, okay, before they can send somebody over. Okay, and another one is that we found that it's a miscommunication. Okay, sometimes they told their local operators to do certain things, and whether that's done or not, or whether that's understood the way that they mean it, that's not always the case. Okay, so as a quality assurance agency, we actually will have to go back and forth, ask the different parties exactly what did you do. Okay, we see some discrepancy here. Okay, so miscommunication, inadequate communication, they didn't communicate for quite a period of time, didn't send their sample papers over for double marking, okay, or sometimes even they don't communicate at all between the 2 institutions. So that's another issue that we discovered. Okay, they fail to carry out responsibilities by either of the institutions. Okay, when they all have obligations, they have to list out their responsibilities as to what they would do, and then at the end, perhaps both parties have lapsed in what they are supposed to do. And so, and then another issue that we sometimes find that doesn't happen as often is that they have disagreements, and eventually they have issues in the way they work with each other, and then it became a problem for the students, and we don't normally know until we do the annual return. Okay? Now then you probably will be thinking, well, if you do annual return annually, they will have to tell you what they're doing, then can you not just catch it? No, that's another issue. I'm going to talk about the delay, okay, of annual return assessment a little bit later. But before that, I'll go to the provider ethics. Okay, for provider ethics, that happens more in other aspects than the delivery of teaching or the programs. Okay, one of which is to, when they do the advertisement, they present misleading information or dishonest information. For example, the provider may have several programs running. Some may be in the process of getting the registration status, but not yet. Okay, and one of the programs may already have the registration status. When they advertise for those programs, they put them all in one ad. And they will present the registration number somewhere in the center of the advertisement. Okay, and tell you that it's registered program, but you don't really know which one. So if you don't go and actually ask them about it, you think all of the programs that they present in the ad are actually registered. Okay, but when they are not necessarily all registered. Okay, so that's one of the things that we find that could happen. Okay, because it helps to draw more students. Why would it help to draw more students? Because people there's a lot of consumer misunderstanding that if an overseas program is registered in Hong Kong, it is recognized in Hong Kong. That's another issue, that they are not even clear as to whether there's a recognized program, that the degree can then get a job that requires a degree. Okay, for example, if you want to teach in public schools in Hong Kong, first thing you do is you take your degree with all the information, transcripts and everything, you take it to HKCA VQ, the same authority that will do the personal assessment on whether your degree is recognized in Hong Kong is equivalent to a local degree, so that you can teach in public schools where they require you to have a degree. Okay? And if it's a registered program, there are people who think that, okay, so since it's a registered program, though, so it's recognized in Hong Kong. No, it's not. It's registered. It doesn't have to be recognized as equivalent to a local degree. So you want to teach in public schools where they require a degree. No, you don't have a degree. Okay, so that's another issue that consumers will have to face. Okay, and the second is a poor program quality. Okay, for example, we have found that sometimes they have reduced content for the local program, even though it's supposed to be comparable. We use the concept of comparability, so it's supposed to be comparable, similar, or identical to the original program in the home countries. But there are times we find that they actually cut short on the content. They don't have to take as many courses. They lower the expectations or the standards that they can pass for those programs. Okay, so different issues have been found. But these issues are primarily found by the Quality Assurance Agency. Okay, and so that kind of information is not out there for the consumers to be aware of. Okay, another one is inadequate teaching resources, which is often found. For example, they have a very small library for the students because they don't actually have the facilities in Hong Kong. Okay, so depending on their partners, if they partner with a local university, that's one reason that they can be exempt from registration, is because local universities already have very substantial, okay, very well-equipped libraries. But if it's private colleges, colleges that are not having the scale of facilities and resources like the local universities, then oftentimes they have a small library, they have very limited online resources for student research and all of that, and they could be offering research degrees, they could be offering postgraduate degrees. Okay, so that could be one issue. Another is that they may employ unqualified professionals, academics, to teach those courses. Okay, and also undesirable teaching or delivery mode. Okay. What are some of those? For example, the interactive block teaching, shortened program duration. They try to make it easy for students to enroll. So instead of going through the entire semester, you have adequate time to interact with the faculty members. They could condense it to a week, a block teaching. In a week, you complete a course, you don't see the faculty member anymore. Why? Some of the overseas universities, in their programs, they agree to send their faculty members to come to Hong Kong to conduct a percentage of the courses. But it's very expensive to have their faculty members stay in Hong Kong for the entire semester to teach one course, because they have to put them up in a hotel, okay, all of these expenses. So what they do is that they will come for a week and they will do the whole course in a week and then they leave and you never get to see them again. Okay, so that's another situation. Okay. Now we come back to what I mentioned earlier, the delay. Okay, first of all, the NCR ordinance, the ordinance actually allows the delay. You're supposed to file an annual report every year but they give you up to 6 months before they even come after you. Okay, so you have another 6 months to wait. Then they will send you the first letter and say, hey, you have not filed your annual return. They wait another month before they send you a second letter if you don't respond. Okay, then they will wait another month after the second letter, and you still don't respond in a month, then they'll send you another letter, the third letter. After 3 letters, at least 3 months before they'll send you a warning letter saying that, hey, if you don't file your annual return, we're going to deregister your program. Okay? And with that, they wait another 2-3 months. So we have situations where when we assess the annual returns, it's 2 years behind. In some extreme cases, we found that the program was not operated anymore. But we knew it 2 years later. Okay? So of course the issue is, what's the point of telling you yes or no? Because it's already run. I tell you yes to run it 2 years back. You already ran it. Okay? And if we see any issues with it, recommendation for some improvement, it's 2 years ago. It doesn't mean anything. Okay? Or yet that you actually have already stopped running the program by now. Okay? So there are these issues with the time delay. Okay? And evidence, as I said earlier, okay, this kind of evidence, you won't get it elsewhere except for the quality assurance agency that assesses the annual return. That, it came to our attention that some institutions were not really doing their job to guarantee that they deliver the program. They are responsible for the students who have not completed the programs but are in the program. And even if they stop running, they are supposed to make sure that you can have the entire program complete before they stop running. And there are some situations that was not the case. Okay, so that really brings a lot of the quality assurance issues for us. Another one, the last one that I want to mention, is the financial involvement by the Hong Kong government. Okay, why? The individual courses or sometimes entire program can apply to be registered under what we call the CEF, the Continuing Education Fund scheme. Under this scheme, okay, if programs are registered under this scheme, the students who enroll in these programs or courses may get up to 80% of their tuition back from the government. Okay, every Hong Kong citizen and resident is given the opportunity to have the continuing education up to 10,000 Hong Kong dollars in their lifetime. They can enroll in any of the programs that's registered under the CEF scheme, and if they do and they complete the course, they pass the assessment, the evaluation, then they can apply for 80% of the tuition back, up to $10,000. So many of these overseas programs are also registered under CEF. Basically, the tax dollars indirectly subsidize these programs, okay, running in Hong Kong. Now, so when actually tax dollars go in, when we have incidents where people really didn't do their registration, keep up with registration, were not taking responsibility for the students, there are a lot of concerns for us to make sure that we are protecting our students, protecting the consumers in Hong Kong. Okay, so there are a lot of issues that we need to deal with that have not been dealt with, and also the fact that the kind of information that's important to the consumers is actually not out there. Okay, the only thing that the students might know a bit about is that because of enough of that kind of incidences, both the NCR website, okay, within the Education Bureau website, and the CEF office, the Continuing Education Fund office website, both of them put up a highlighted note warning to the potential consumers that, okay, please make sure that you enroll in a program that is properly registered in Hong Kong, and be careful when you read advertisements of the programs, make sure that, okay, you enroll in a program that's registered, because sometimes they advertise altogether, you don't really know which program is registered, which is not. Okay, so they actually put a highlighted note, a warning note on their websites to try to help students. But the issue that has not been dealt with is even the list of registered programs on their websites may not be updated. If you remember what I just said about the delayed annual return, okay, their registration status may be in question, but it is not showing up on their website until they properly deregistered. And so you still won't know until you get into it. Okay, so I present you with a lot of problems just before you go off from the conference. But thank you very much for your attention on the last morning of the conference, and unexpected, because there's supposed to be two, right? Okay, and so thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take it.